Imagine, if you will, that we're in the sanctuary and Bob Van is running up to the pulpit for an announcement.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Bob Van, Chair of Westside's Endowment Committee. On behalf of myself and my fellow committee members, Melissa Trask, Debbie Rake, Spencer Maxwell, and Diane Nixon, I'd like to provide about a 3-minute reintroduction to the Endowment Fund. Now, Dwight Robarts wrote a beautiful presentation for this spot, but it was a tad too long, so while I'm using much of his material, I've had to shorten it just a bit. Now, for those of you who know my writing, asking me to shorten something is like asking Donald Trump to read Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire. However, here goes. Reverend McMahon's late husband, Howard, first promoted the idea of an endowment fund in 2010, and it became reality the following year. Built initially on a $30,000 bequest from early member Bob Conti. The fund currently lists a little over $66,000 in 3 sub-funds invested with TD Ameritrade. So in 10 years, the fund has a little more than doubled. The committee wants to thank our members, friends, and others who have generously contributed to this growth. But I think you'll agree, for an endowment to provide a useful backup for us in times of trouble, or to use for important growth projects, the fund is going to have to grow a whole lot more. Supporting Westside's endowment fund is a vital way to demonstrate our care of Westside and to support our mission, our values, and our liberal religious tradition in our community and beyond. Since Westside's beginning, our country has been through 3 major recessions, 9/11, and now the tumultuous events of this year. Each of these crises had negative consequences for all religious groups. Our collective pledges this year fell by nearly 20% from last year due to the pandemic's impact on members' jobs and their economic well-being. This is precisely why endowments are so important. We may not know when the next economic blow will strike, but we can be sure that it will. It always does. Our congregation must prepare now to soften the impact as much as possible. An endowment can make the difference between coping with a temporary fall in donations or facing a threatening economic blow to our church. So your endowment committee is asking, if you are able, consider making a gift to the fund now. Help us grow this fund to the point that it can make a real difference. Every dollar counts, whether you can give $5 or $500. No gift is too small. Giving is easy. Look for the drop-down menu on our website or the Give Plus app. You can also consider, as Bob Conti and others have done, adding the endowment fund to your will or estate plan. Now finally, we're setting up several corporate giving programs. If you shop at Amazon Smile, Tom Thumb, or Kroger, you'll soon be able, at no cost to you, to secure donations for Westside. Be looking for information on how to do this. I want to thank Dwight, Caroline Nixon in our office, and my thanks to the worship committee for providing this time for us to better inform you about Westside's endowment fund. Be looking for more information in your mail. And thank all of you for all you do for Westside.
Good morning. Welcome to worship with the community of Westside Unitarian Universalist Church, where compassion leads us to work for justice and equality. My name is Michael Munoz, and I am your worship leader this morning. I'm glad you are joining us for our virtual service today. It is my hope that this gathering will renew your sense of community and connection and nourish your heart, mind, and spirit. Our interim minister, Reverend Frieda Gillespie, will be offering the reflection today entitled, Letting Others See Your Pain. Thank you to our technology helpers, Amy Stubbs, Cindy Fountain, Donald Kennard, and of course, Dr. Yuki Kumamoto, our wonderful pianist. We are also blessed this morning with gifts of music from Carol Kappa and Jennifer Long. At Westside, we are raising the next generation of Unitarian Universalists, and we want them to know that they are an important part of our community. Several years ago, we chose to adopt multi-generational worship, where our services are radically inclusive and include our children of all ages. Westside is a community of many beliefs, genders, and sexualities, a community of diverse cultural, racial, class background, a community of varied abilities, gifts. Some here find inspiration in the great books, others in the great outdoors, and others still in great conversations. Whoever you may be, we welcome you to bring your whole self into this community. If you are so moved, you can try out the chat feature on Zoom by typing in some words of welcome to both members and visitors who are joining us this morning. On behalf of this community, I also say to all, welcome. Today's order of service is a PDF. A link was provided via email and will also be posted in the chat for you to download. Most important is simply the opportunity to be present and connect together as the Westside community. So don't worry if you don't have the order of service. We won't leave you behind. As always, please continue to watch your email inbox, the church website, and our Facebook page for updates on church programs and opportunities. You can also stick around after the service ends today if you would like to join us for virtual coffee hour. I invite you to take a deep breath and from wherever you are, settle into this sacred space that we created together each week. Now let us worship together as we listen to this morning's prelude, a duet from Carol Kappa and Jennifer Long.
Good morning. Our opening words this morning are from Joan Javier Duval. It's called Here. Here is where you can lay it down. Lay down all that you've carried, the weight of the world that has rounded your back, leaving you aching and exhausted. Here is where healing begins, where burdens are set down, and alongside one another's, their magnitude does not seem so great. Here is where the door is thrown open and the light can lift away the shadows, and what was hidden can now be seen. Here is where you can rest, where nothing is expected, but that you bring all of who you are into the presence of the holy and of this loving community.
Feel free to join in lighting your own chalice as I share these words by Reverend Catherine McTeague. This place is sanctuary. You who are brokenhearted, who woke up today with the winds of despair whistling through your mind, come in. You who are brave but wounded, limping through life and hurting with every step, come in. Our chalice lighting song this morning is 362, Rise Up, O Flame.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, rise up, O flame, show thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
I invite you to join me in reciting the affirmation. Love is the doctrine of this church. Truth, the quest of truth is a sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another. Our opening hymn is We Would Be One. Our Time for All Ages today will be presented by Caroline Nixon.
Good morning, everyone. Today we wanted to give everyone an update on how 2 of our gardens right outside of the sanctuary are progressing. Here's an update. This is the area for our meditation garden, created as requested to thank Betty Sanders for her generous gift a few years ago. Betty's contribution allowed Westside to continue to operate as a church and gain full utilization of our building for the following 3 years without dependence on income from the child care tenant that had physically overwhelmed our building and limited our weekday access. A meditation garden is a peaceful space for contemplation or meditation. While a more natural setting was considered, we, as UUs, made a commitment to being inclusive by making the garden accessible to individuals using a walker, wheelchair, scooter, etc. The trees and the shrubs will be planted in beds on all 4 sides, and that will provide a more natural environment. An outdoor carpet, benches, chairs, and tables will be placed in a manner for group or individual meditation, or for an outdoor classroom, weather permitting, of course. The first tree of several to be planted in this garden is a desert willow, and it was planted last week. One day it will be 12 feet tall. Volunteers will be needed to keep this garden well groomed. Right now, we need a volunteer to help with watering. In the center, between the meditation garden and the exploration garden, is our celebration garden. After it is complete, we can look forward to many different types of celebrations. We can celebrate weddings, renewal of vows, celebrations of life, child dedications, and all kinds of social events, depending on the weather. In the area directly across from the sanctuary doors will be a stained glass backdrop designed by Stephanie Jeffers. The planters will eventually be filled with plants and shrubs and our peace pole. A part of this center space is a garden within a garden, one we call the Joy Garden, as it will be planted to celebrate and provide for the pollinators, especially butterflies and hummingbirds. Last week we planted 2 desert willows here. They are losing all their leaves right now for the winter, but will be beautiful in the spring. In addition, nearby, we want to mount a house for mason bees that are master pollinators, much more so than honeybees. And they typically don't bother people unless we attack them first. We will all learn not to swat the bees, but to joyfully invite them to join us. As you might imagine, a lot of study and planning has gone into development of these gardens, and volunteer energy has been given, and it is still needed to spread the resources as far as possible. Another Sunday, I'll tell you all about the exploration garden, which occupies the western part of our church backyard. As you can see, there's a lot growing in our gardens. Special thanks to the team lead on this project, Diane Nixon. We look forward to showing you where the toad abodes and the gecko condos are going to go in the exploration garden. Until then, never underestimate a healing, quiet moment in the garden.
Thank you, Caroline and Diane. Today's joys and concerns will be shared by a representative of the pastoral care team, Christina Sellers.
Melissa Jack.
Melissa.
Yes. As we share our joys with others, those joys are multiplied. As we share our concern, our community can offer its care. Please post in the chat if you have a joy or concern you would like to share with everyone today and those who will be watching the recording later. Joys and concerns can be submitted at any time via email to pastoralcare@westsideuu.org or from the web form located on the Care and Support page of the church's website. This week's joys and concerns include, let me take a look here. We got one from a concern from Dana Truly. And she said that her father has tested positive for COVID and was taken by ambulance to the hospital this morning because he couldn't breathe and his oxygen was still low. We're still waiting on an update, and he lived in Colorado, so she's far away, and she most likely won't be in church today. And I'm trying to see if there's anything in the chat. Joy from Cindy Fountain. It says it was 400 years ago that enslaved women arrived on our shores. It was 1848 that women and supportive men officially met to fight for women's rights. It was 100 years ago this year that women gained the right to vote. And now Kamala Harris is the art of justice indeed. Thank you for sharing those with us. Sharing draws our community closer together. Please know that our pastoral care associates are available to support you with deep listening and when needed through our InReach Fund for short-term financial support of members in need. We are here for you.
Thank you, Melissa. This morning's centering song is number 352, Find a Stillness. Sing along, but if you prefer to simply listen, that's okay too.
Find a stillness, oh, stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, oh, the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
On the wings of this music, I invite you to join me in a time of centering. Each week here at Westside, we open our hearts to those in our community who know both joys and challenges, and to all suffering beings. I will begin with a brief pastoral introduction before we move into a time for silent reflection. At that point, I will ring the bell to signal the start of the time for your own meditation, prayer, or reflection. And I will ring the bell again at the end. I invite you to close your eyes and check the alignment of your spine as I begin. Spirit of life and hope and love, let our hearts be full of love and excitement as we share in the joys among this community. And let our spirits reach out in compassion who know sorrow as well, offering a loving presence to those in pain, whether spoken or too painful to share. Remind us of our connection to each other, and may that connection bring us great peace. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.
Westside has a long tradition of reaching out to the wider community in generosity. You will find a guidance in the order of service, the chat, and in the weekly email from the church about different causes to support and how you can give. In addition to giving online through our donation webpage or mailing a check to the church, you can give using the Give Plus app, which has recently been updated with more specific options. Thank you to all who are continuing to pay towards your pledge for the church, which is keeping our mission going at this time when spiritual community and support is so needed. We will now hear a gift of offering of music from Carol Kappa and Jennifer Long while you make this gift. Enjoy. Thank you for your generosity. And to Carol and Jennifer, woo! And now we will turn our attention to Reverend Frieda, who will share this morning's reading and their reflection.
Hello, everyone. Good to be with you on this beautiful day. You may wonder why I'm not talking about the election today, but I am really, because there's so much that we need to heal. I hope you are as happy and excited as I am with the result of the election, which signals the beginning of a new era in the country, but one that has many challenges. I'm going to write about it, but it'll take time to take it in and consider the many aspects of what's happened. Meanwhile, we can rejoice. Today, I want to talk about the healing that comes from allowing ourselves to be vulnerable with one another. And I'm going to start this with a short video of my stepdaughter, Julia, when she was 1.5. She's now 21, so this was quite a long time ago. It's illustrating a principle about being helped by others.
Where's your doggy? Oh. What's the doggy's name? You love him? Oh, you love that doggy. What happened?
My elbow.
Are you okay?
My elbow.
You all right?
My elbow.
Need a kiss?
Oh no.
Want me to do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Can't reach it yourself?
Oh
Try kiss it yourself.
no.
Can't. Okay, mommy kiss it.
Mommy, kiss it.
Yep, here comes. Ready? Okay, come here. Come here. Mwah. Is that better?
No, elbow.
Want me to kiss it again?
Yeah.
Okay,
No.
ready?
Elbow.
Mwah.
Okay.
Is that good?
The voice you hear in the video is of Jennifer, Julia's mother. So she's the one doing the kissing of the boo-boo. So I also have a short reading from Kitchen Table Wisdom by Rachel Naomi Reverend. Rachel Reverend is a therapist that deals a lot with cancer patients and their suffering. And so this is from that perspective, let's say. Suffering, whether physical, emotional, spiritual, or as often the case, all three, can be a doorway to transformation. Our personal suffering is sometimes worsened by the lack of communication and community. Illness often intensifies these feelings of isolation. Telling stories can be healing. We all have within us access to a greater wisdom, and we may not even know that until we speak out loud. Listening to stories can be healing. A deep trust of life often emerges when you listen to other people's stories. You realize that you're not alone. You're traveling in wonderful company. The connection to each other and to our soul and spirit is already there. During the times that we feel most vulnerable, that which is invulnerable within us becomes uncovered, becomes more apparent. When our hearts begin to open, we are able to feel it, like opening the window shade and letting in the sunshine that's been there all along, waiting patiently to be let inside. When I was a student chaplain during seminary, I met a woman I'll call Carolyn, who was in the hospital for surgery. Much like the Carolyn was completely alone. I wrote a theological reflection about my encounter with Carolyn as part of the chaplaincy programs. Here are some excerpts. Carolyn is a Caucasian woman in her late 70s, married for the second time, Catholic. She was admitted for surgery for a herniated disc in her neck and was wearing a neck brace. She was admitted the day before my visit. Carolyn is thin, has long black hair and deep brown eyes. Her face is very lined all over and her hair is thinning and was uncombed. She had recently manicured nails with pale pink polish. Carolyn's first husband died when he was just 35 years old. Her second husband has medical problems. She lost one son. Her daughter is married to an attorney and doesn't visit her. Her other son was an important executive at Disney until he became ill with diabetes and couldn't work. He has become a computer expert and got a law degree and is making his way back into the workforce. I introduced myself to Carolyn by saying my name and that I'm a chaplain and wanted to know how we could provide help for her spiritual needs while she's here. Carolyn said she didn't need anything. She said, I pray all the time. I don't believe God gives us anything that we can't handle. She spoke quite a bit about her family and her troubles in her life. She said, I've had a lot of headaches in my life. We lost one of our sons. Of her daughter who doesn't visit her, she said, my daughter is selfish. She doesn't care about me. About her injuries, she said, I didn't take care of myself. About her son, she said something like, you can overcome troubles and start again. Carolyn was very gracious. She offered her hand when I introduced myself and held it lightly in greeting. She said she was very glad to meet me. She had an air of gentility in contrast to her disheveled appearance. Her voice was low and husky and at times hard to hear. She had a glass of juice with a straw and said that she was supposed to drink all of it in the next hour. She had a pitcher of juice as well. It was hard for her to get the straw to her mouth as she only had easy use of one hand. She refused help with it and continued to struggle. At one point, she poured juice from the pitcher onto the table, missing the glass altogether. I cleaned it up for her. She was concerned about getting a call from her husband. Apparently, she hadn't heard the phone ring earlier, so I adjusted the volume up for her. I felt conflicted in the conversation with Carolyn. There was such a dissonance between her condition and her statements. She seemed to be alone. Her husband couldn't come to visit because of his own problems, and she really wanted to talk with him. Her demeanor and words were very stoical and brave. She was not a person to allow anyone to help her, and this felt sad to me. Her statement that God doesn't give anything to anyone that they can't handle is one I've certainly heard before and usually affirm. However, when she said it, I felt no sense of comfort or relief in it, only determination and will. She seemed to be keeping up appearances, even in handling the juice. I did not get the sense that she was fine on her own. I feel sad in reflecting later about this encounter. I wanted to offer her some sense of support or empathy, but it was so important for her that I see her as capable and undaunted by her troubles. She seemed to value the idea of lifting oneself up by the bootstraps. This to me is a very hard way to live and a limited way because I have learned that I can be more self-reliant the more I allow someone else to help appropriately. Carolyn believes that God listens to her prayers and will provide for her, but she has little faith in other people to be a support or to help to her. Her sense of God does not extend to other people and the gifts they bring. Carolyn believes that her help must come from the transcendent through her prayers rather than through her experiences in life with others. This is the description of Carolyn. What I liked about the little video of Julia asking for a kiss was that she seemed secure in her worthiness to be helped by Mom. And she was attentive to the fact that one kiss wasn't enough. It took two. Then she was fine and ready to move on to the next adventure. In this way, in the way of healthy children, she had no shame or blame about hurting herself or asking for a kiss, although she was fully prepared to kiss her own elbow and probably would have if she could reach it. I wonder if you could try reaching your elbow yourself. Can you kiss your elbow without breaking your arm, basically? There are parts of our psyche, no matter how capable and mature we are, that we cannot reach on our own. We need others in order to fully respond to our own needs. We don't always let ourselves into our really vulnerable places, and I think shame is what prevents us. If we grow up in an atmosphere of shame and blame, we become fearful of letting others in. We equate vulnerability with weakness, with unworthiness. But as human beings, we need to connect with ourselves and others. And so if we cannot do that, we have to mask that need in whatever way we can. Like Carolyn, we can form an image of ourselves as superior and above any need for comfort or companionship. Shame keeps us from letting our ideas, insights, and needs be known for fear of others thinking negatively about us. It's a terrible prison, and one that we are all locked in to some degree. Brené Brown is a very popular shame and empathy researcher. Her video of a TED Talk went viral because of how much people are afflicted with shame. In her book, Daring Greatly, she writes, "To feel is to feel vulnerable. To believe vulnerability is a weakness is to believe that feeling is a weakness. To foreclose on our emotional life out of fear that the costs will be too high is to walk away from the very thing that gives purpose and meaning to living. Vulnerability is the core, the heart, the center of meaningful human experiences." Brown uses the word wholeheartedness to describe what it's like to be resilient when you feel shame, disconnection, fear, a need to cover up your feelings. She developed guideposts for wholehearted living, specific work to develop resiliency. She writes, "Wholehearted living is about engaging in our lives from a place of worthiness. What do we need in order to cultivate a life of courage, compassion, and connection?" I like that Brown uses the word cultivate because it implies developing something further that already exists or has the potential to exist. We have within us all that we need to live wholeheartedly, fully engaged and fully alive. If we didn't, we couldn't even conceptualize these qualities and they would be completely foreign to us, but they are not. Every encounter with others or within ourselves that leaves us in pain identifies a place to work on ourselves. We can either cover up or numb ourselves to the pain or allow ourselves to be vulnerable to what is going on within us and to wonder about it. I've had experiences in my work of being intensely criticized by others and feeling quite defensive and hurt by it. That shame that was triggered by what was said was excruciating. And in one particular case, I was criticized for seeming aloof, for being defensive and uncaring. This was a real double whammy because I was being criticized for the very thing I used to protect myself from criticism. I was really backed into a corner by this. It was a beautiful situation, although I didn't feel it that way at first. It was beautiful because it forced me to be vulnerable. After sitting with this for a few days, during which I rationalized that the critics were abusive and unreasonable, I began to find an opening in my heart for what was shared with me. Not because I wanted to please the others, but because I could begin to see the truth of it. It was very scary, and yet also quite exciting. It was exciting because I could see that if I could change my ways, open myself up more, allow myself to be known, I could actually feel so much freer and enjoy my work and life more. I saw the light behind my defensiveness. This realization came about first because others challenged me, were willing to share their negative perception with me, but second, because someone I trusted helped me to clarify what was being said. I think it's unlikely that I would have seen what they were saying on my own. Like Julia's elbow, I couldn't have reached those defended parts of myself without help. It's also interesting that it doesn't matter what the motivations were of those who brought the criticism to me. It wasn't about validating their thinking, but uncovering the truth within me. However, after this awakening, I was able to engage with them so much more fully and joyfully. It takes so much energy to refuse to engage, to go it alone, to have to be above the need for others' help, to be fearful of making mistakes or being criticized, to have to hold ourselves back in the process of defending. In the process of defending, we lose ourselves, and there is no lonelier place than that. Life, free from shame, holds the promise of much greater joys than we can even imagine right now. In the coming months and years, we are going to need to do a lot of healing, both of ourselves and of other people, as there are so many people, at least half of the population, that voted for Donald Trump and are unhappy at this point. And we have to find a way to reach out for them and reach out in ourselves for whatever judgment we have of them and let it go. May it be so. Blessed be and amen. I invite you to join me in singing our closing hymn, one of my very, very favorites. We'll build a land.
We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. peace like an ever-flowing stream.
Our closing words are from The Broken World Awaits by L.R. Nost. Do not be dismayed by the brokenness of the world. All things break, and all things can be mended. Not with time, as they say, but with intention. So go, love intentionally, extravagantly, unconditionally.
As we extinguish our own chalice and chalices across the country this morning, please join me in our congregational closing. Let us go in peace, believe in peace, and create peace in our lives and in the world. May it be so, blessed be, and amen. That ends our service this morning. If you would like to participate in our virtual coffee hour, please stay on the Zoom meeting and accept the message to place you into breakout rooms. You will be placed in a random selection of others who joined the service today. Please be mindful of our congregational covenant, welcome newcomers, and give everyone an equal chance to participate in conversation. Coffee hour will end at 11:40 in time for children's RE.